everyone, so today I wanted to do a video all about my creepy childhood stories. Ever since I was pretty young, I've had a really big interest just in things kind of ranging from paranormal to like serial killers and just different crazy creepy events. And I definitely put in a lot of time and effort on reading books and articles about different things. And as I think back, I definitely know that I have a lot of stories that happened to me when I was quite a bit younger that would now classify as creepy. And the weirder thing about it, I think, is when they were actually happening to me since I was so young, I think I didn't even realize that these things were kind of weird and creepy. So if you guys enjoyed this video, let me know and I could definitely do more. So the first story I want to tell you is something that was really freaky as I got older, because I thought back on this and it was kind of one of those moments where I knew something was very, very wrong, but I didn't fully understand it. So to give you a little bit of background history, I know I've talked about that my family used to have rabbits as pets when I was younger, and these rabbits were like our prized possessions. We loved these things. They were so special to us. We got them when they were very young and we raised them, and just having them in our house was like, I don't know, something my sister and I really put a lot of effort into. We loved to play with them and feed them and make their cages all nice and just really cozy for them, and they were just something that was a huge deal to us. And it was kind of, a little bit easier to take care of, I think, than a dog at that age, but was definitely as important as a family dog or cat or something like that. So when I was about 8 years old, I couldn't have been any older than 10, so I believe I was probably 8. I met this girl at my school and she was just a little bit strange from the get-go. She did move to our school from a different city, and I was always just very friendly and I tried to always make everyone feel comfortable. So of course, for whatever reason, she kind of set her sights on me and she really wanted to hang out with me. She always wanted to sit with me at lunch, all this kind of stuff. And I was a little bit flattered just because she was new, and I thought, oh, she picked me out of everyone to befriend. That's kind of cool. So I did have some play dates with her and stuff. And one day she came over to my house and I was showing her my rabbit because I love this thing and it was so special to me and important. And she said, oh my gosh, have you given your rabbit a bath lately? And I was like, I mean, not that lately. I guess we could do that. And she's like, we should totally give him a bath in your bathtub. And at this time I had a humongous bathtub. It was massive. And I remember thinking that it was going to be way too deep for the rabbit to go in there. This was a little tiny bunny. There was no way that would work. So she's like, okay, let's do it in the sink. So I was like, okay, I guess that'll work. So we took the rabbit over to the sink and we put in some pet soap and stuff, and we started kind of rubbing it and whatever. And I remember my sister yelled from the other room. So I walked out of the room for, it couldn't have been longer than maybe 20 seconds. And I left that girl to just kind of be bathing the rabbit. And when I came back in the room, she was holding my rabbit under the water, and the sink had filled with water so much that it was overflowing. And she was literally trying to drown my rabbit. She had the full head under the water, holding it down, and it was, kicking and stuff, and I was just mortified. For a second, I just froze, and then I looked at her and I screamed, and I was like, what are you doing? And I remember I kind of shoved her out of the way because she looked up at me and she just kind of laughed, and she was still doing it, her hand still fully pushing it under the water. I freaked out, grabbed it from her, I wrapped it up in a towel, and the whole rest of our play date, it was just really uncomfortable because I was crying and I did not really speak to her the whole rest of the day. And eventually, when her parents came and picked her up, we said goodbye and everything, and my mom was like, okay, so how did it go? And I remember not telling my parents at this time because I was so freaked out by it, and I was trying to figure out if, maybe that was an accident, maybe she wasn't really trying to drown it, maybe, I don't know. In my head, I was trying to rationalize this because I was so young. I didn't understand why someone would purposely be trying to hurt an animal like that, let alone my pet that I had explained to her was so important to me, and it was just very creepy. So as I got older, I did do a lot of research on, different events and serial killers and stuff, and a huge thing about people that definitely have something wrong with them is if they harm animals, especially, helpless animals that can't defend themselves in any ways. That's just very, very scary, and definitely a sign of someone that has anger or just, kind of some evil thoughts in their head that they would, drown something with their bare hands, especially when you're a child. Like, that's just mind-blowing. And I think back on that and it's so creepy. Honestly, I don't know what happened to her. I really never hung out with her after that. So this next story, again, is something that happened when I was pretty young, probably like 9 or 10 years old, and my younger sister Molly was always very small, and I was always like, you know, pretty average size, but she was just very, very petite and tiny and little. And when we were growing up, we had these neighbors, and I think every kid kind of goes through this, at least I think it's pretty common. And these neighbor kids that lived next door to us were kind of like frenemies to us. We didn't really like them. They were honestly kind of mean to us, and they would like break stuff in our house or make a huge mess, and then we would get in trouble. And they were just kind of kids that we wouldn't really hang out with, besides the fact that they lived next door to us. And they would literally just like come over, and we had really kind of no choice but to hang out with them. That sounds kind of weird, but I'm sure you guys get where I'm coming from. So anyways, we had this really giant pool, and of course the neighbors did not have a pool, so coming over to our house for them was a huge thing because they wanted to go swimming. So one day they decided that we should play this game called Mermaids, and Molly and I were into it. We said okay, and they explained to us how we would do it. So basically we had these huge beach towels that were really, really large and really heavy and thick fabric. And I remember we would wrap ourselves up in the beach towels and then get in the water. And if you've ever like gone into water with your clothes on, you know that when your clothes get wet, they do become heavy and weigh you down a bit. And now imagine this, especially as, you know, children, and then of course Molly being really, really tiny and petite and just very, very small overall. So wrapping these giant beach towels around ourselves and then having them get wet, it was like a lot of weight weighing you down. Let alone being young and not being super strong swimmers, that kind of all added to it. So we would be playing this game, and they described that basically what you would do is swim down to the bottom of our pool, which I believe was probably like maybe 10 feet or something. And what you would do is lay on the bottom of the pool with the beach towels wrapped around you, because you kind of couldn't get up, honestly, like especially for Molly, she was so little. So then once someone was on the bottom of the pool, wrapped in all the beach towels, kind of weighed down, someone else would jump in and swim all the way down and pull them up to, you know, safety to the shore, and they could breathe and whatever. So that was basically the whole idea of this game. And we would just keep playing that, kind of switching off roles and stuff. And it wasn't until I got older that I thought about how dangerous that was, truly, and also just kind of the creepy factor of that these kids came up with this idea on their own. Now I know that, you know, it could have been harmless, like they wanted to pretend we were mermaids and stuff, but one of the kids was a boy, so he was a lot stronger than us, and I remember a lot of the time he never wanted to be the one on the actual pool floor. He always wanted to be the one saving us, and I remember there were a few times where like if he didn't hurry up, like I was kind of running out of air. Like it was really kind of intense, and I remember we often said we didn't want to keep playing, and then they would get mad at us and yell at us, and it was just this huge thing. And just thinking back on it, like it's very creepy that there were those kind of games that seem so innocent and childish, but at the same time were pretty dangerous. I also remember one time with these specific kids, we were playing hide and go seek, and I was with the boy, and he told me to hide in the washing machine. And I knew at that age, like, no, I'm not gonna do that, because obviously, you know, the washing machine shuts, and how do you get out, you know? And I knew he also, like I said, was kind of a frenemy, so how was I supposed to know if he would actually let me out or not? And I was pretty lucky at that age to know that was wrong. And I remember even telling Molly, like, you know, if they ever tell you to hide in the washing machine, like that's a good hiding place, don't listen to them. That's super dangerous. I did actually tell my parents about that, because even though I was super young, at that point I knew that was like creepy. And also I didn't want them hiding in our washing machine and something bad happening. So I don't know, just weird to think back on those memories. And my last story I have to share is a bit paranormal. And when I was younger, I had this collection of like porcelain dolls, and I had this built-in desk in my room. I'm gonna try to find a photo of it if I can, but basically where the dolls were, it was really high up on these shelves above my desk. You'd have to like climb on the desk and then reach up, and even then, you know, I don't think you could have gotten them down or anything. They really weren't for playing with, because like I said, they were like porcelain and very delicate, and some of them were even from my mother when she was a little girl, and my grandma, and they were just kind of like very fancy, like family heirlooms, I guess. And they honestly never bothered me in my room. I know that there are a lot of like creepy stories and movies about like dolls attacking people and stuff, but at this time I never really thought anything of it. But at the same time, I didn't really like love them. I never really asked to play with them or anything like that. And I remember my sister Molly would always come sleep in my bedroom because she would get scared at night, and she was definitely someone that had a more difficulty like with nightmares and, you know, sleeping on her own and that kind of stuff, especially when she was a lot younger. And so I would always let her come sleep in my room and stuff. And I remember her mentioning to me one time that she didn't like the dolls because when we would go to sleep, I had all these windows in my room, and the way that my room kind of faced, the light would come in and the dolls were on the other wall, and they would kind of like be like lit up almost because their faces were really pretty, like white porcelain. And I remember her telling me that she thought they were moving and that she didn't like them looking at her and all this stuff. And I never really thought anything of it, and it just kind of brushed it off, I guess, as like my little sister being silly and scared and whatever. So I remember one day, this was probably, oh gosh, at least like 2 months after I remember she had first ever mentioned that, I came home and all of my dolls were turned around. So they were like flipped so that their faces were facing the inside of the cabinet and you couldn't see any of them. Now mind you, like I said, they were super high up and they were also like stacked, like there was more than one. So in order to turn them around, like it would take a lot of effort to not like break them and have them fall off and stuff, especially if it was Molly doing it because she was so small, like I said. I don't even think she could honestly reach it. I did ask my parents if they did it and they said no. At this time we had someone that cleaned our house kind of routinely. They would come I think like Monday and Friday, and so they thought maybe she had like, you know, dusted up there and like turned them around or something, but we never figured out what had happened with that. And honestly, I remember my parents like not really exploring that much with me. The thing that is creepier is I was actually just thinking about this, and I went outside to our garages at my parents' house and I asked to go in the storage units and stuff that we have, and I cannot find these dolls anywhere. I wanted to show one in a video, and I called my parents and asked them if they could like, you know, send me one or find one or anything, and they both said they have no clue where they went. And we've moved since then, so I don't know if they kind of got lost in the shuffle or when I was younger if we decided to give them away or something, but I don't have them anymore, and it's just very, very strange because I just always remember other people commenting on how creepy they were and weird things that happen. The only other thing that ever happened with one of them was one of them ended up in my bathtub, which was a little strange again just because they were so high up. I don't know how they would have gotten down from there. And again, my bathroom was actually like not in my room, like it was like a separate thing you went into, so it wasn't like they could have just fallen off into the bathtub. Like someone would have had to take it and put it into the bathtub, so that's pretty weird. But that's it for my creepy stories today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you liked this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.